Good morning, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are. Good afternoon, I guess, maybe in some parts of the world. Welcome to the March 2023 meeting of the OWASP Global Board. Just going to take note of who's in the room. Going clockwise insofar as they stay clockwise. Glenn, I see you first.
Yeah.
And then Bill.
Here.
And then Avi.
Here.
And then Vandana. I don't actually see.
Present.
Thank you, Vandana. We also have a number of guests this evening. Dawn, I trust that you'll be able to take a note of all the guests. Quite a few members of staff and a number of members as well.
Yes.
Thank you. As usual, we kick off a meeting of the board with a reminder of the conflict of interest and antitrust statement and policy. Should anything be discussed this evening, today, in this meeting, where one of the board members feels that they might have a conflict of interest, please let us know that before the discussion begins, so that you can make a determination as to whether you need to recuse yourself or not. I should probably be sharing my screen, shouldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can figure out how to do that again. I trust you guys will see the meeting minutes.
Yes,
Agenda?
ma'am. Yeah, we can see.
Okay, perfect. So the first item of business is the approval of minutes, and there is a bit of a story to these minutes. The reason we're reapproving the January minutes. Andrew, do you want to walk us through what happened?
So if you go to the January minutes now, it includes a vote on moving the, which was passed unanimously, to move the April and December board meetings, and that wasn't in the original January minutes. And so although these have been previously approved without this particular vote, the vote was taken. I do actually have a record of it in my book, and I've confirmed those votes. So we need to reconfirm these minutes in its entirety.
Okay, to that end, I mean, I'm sure the recording showed the vote of this this item as well.
Mm-hmm.
So to that end, I'm going to call for a revote on approving those minutes. And I'm going to try to do this. I need a participants list, that'll help. Glenn.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Avi.
Yes. Yes.
Vandana.
Yes.
And have I missed anyone? Myself, it's also a yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. Now, the next set of minutes weren't linked, and therefore there was no time for the board to review them. In particular, we're not sure if the secretary has actually had a chance to review them. And so what I would suggest is,
approving those minutes and do it via an e-vote?
Yes, I would strongly suggest that. They look okay to me. Now, the March 17 meeting was called off, lack of quorum. I'm happy to remove the 17th because it didn't happen.
Yeah, it effectively didn't happen because we actually described that it probably wouldn't have quorum anyway, so it was going to be an online working session. So I think it should be struck from the list.
Yep, I'll get rid of it.
And I'll follow up with Matt after the call, tomorrow, because he's done some stuff, to see if he reviewed them before you do your e-vote.
Perfect, thank you.
And once the 2 sets of minutes that are going to be improved or likely to be approved, February 28 and March 16, it looks like one board member or more, probably just one at this stage, may fall foul of the 75% attendance rule. If we only count regular board meetings like these, then it is 50%, but unfortunately, we don't have any rules in place for that first quarter where you can easily fall afoul of just missing one meeting and need a vote of confidence. I'd like the board at some stage to have a discussion, whether it's today or whether it's online, as to what counts towards attendance so that we can properly tabulate attendance and then, if necessary, at a future board meeting, call for a vote of confidence.
Okay.
This meeting is very jam-packed, so I would probably suggest a electronic discussion might be the way to go.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We'll do it on the board list.
Yep.
Okay, there was a bunch of pre-meeting material, but at this point, Andrew, I'd like to hand it back to you for the staff reports. Do you want me to run the presentation, or?
Yeah, you can
want
do
to
that. You may as well. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, strategy days, we need more. If we're going to finish writing or even start writing a operating plan or a strategic plan for the community, we aren't anywhere near where we need to be. I would strongly encourage, now that there seems to be more unanimity amongst the board members on the strategy, we might be able to get further through. I know there was some discussion about meeting in in London or some other city. Has the board made a decision about doing that? And I will just flag that I can't travel.
The board has not yet made a decision on it. It is one of the topics of discussion for this evening, as is the more strategy days. London, I see your hand.
The discussion that we had, as Andrew mentioned, Andrew would not be able to join, but we need to decide on the dates and venue together, so that anyone who does maybe who needs a visa, we can apply early on. If it's London,
yeah,
okay, but if it's Amsterdam, then we need a Schengen visa, so we'll have to apply early on. But I'm fine with any place.
Okay. I do see a executive session on staff restructuring. So from the community's point of view, I'll just keep it short. We have restructured. Kelly has now handed off most of her event stuff to Lauren. Lauren has taken on most of the event stuff, and Lisa Jones is no longer with the organisation, and her duties are now with Dawn. I'm happy to discuss that with the board in executive session later today if we have time. We have a brand new MSA with virtual. It's not everything we wanted, but it is most of the things that makes it easy for us to determine what and what not virtual provide us. I think, going from having 6 or 7 documents of various ages to 1 makes it a lot easier for everybody. Avi?
About the staffing, you didn't mention about the intern? I don't know when.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Alyssa Harden has joined us as the intern. She reports into Harold as a projects intern, and she is currently conducting a project audit and has got through around 30 of the projects. So very good progress in a very short time. Early in March, I attended a joint meeting with SPDX and Cyclone DX. That was a good working meeting, and I think they've agreed to meet again. I'm a third wheel on these meetings, but if there's anything I can do to actually encourage Cyclone DX and SPDX to come closer together, because the SBOMs are a major talking point for many governments, including the US government. And maybe there's a grant available for us if we get to a place where something needs to be developed. We'll keep our ears to the ground for that. I do want to just point out to the board, I did point out in my one-on-one with Grant last week, we did have a bit of a slowdown in both January and February in terms of income. We also underspent. And so that's the only reason we're doing okay is we're underspending. I do want to highlight that if this trend of the slowdown continues, we may need to recast the budget in any case. But the budget that's going to be hopefully approved today, you'll see that the impact of the slowdown when we get to those slides. Next slide. Our tickets, we've managed to do a major cleanup. Almost all of the hundreds of tickets that were open that didn't need to be open are now shut. And so the statistics will be a lot more reliable going forward. We are seeing an uptick in responsiveness because of that. We still have some distance to go to make our SLAs. And I think, you know, one of the last items that Mark Curfew discussed was to improve the ticketing responsiveness or solution. The reality is we need a ticketing solution, whether it's Jira or some other product, it's still going to be a ticketing solution. People expect to have immediate turnaround on their issues. And with a small staff like ours, that's just not realistic. So as long as we maintain a reasonable SLA, I am perfectly fine with this. And it's just a matter of making sure that the SLAs match the community's expectations, or at least alert them that they should have lower expectations, one of the two. Next. So the service desk one here is for funding. This was taken at a time, we have two payable runs per month. And until the payable runs are completed, the tickets don't look great. And so if you took this slide today, it would be looking a lot better because a lot of things from the last payable run are now complete. So this is unavoidable. It's just the way it works. We're lucky. Most of Virtual's clients don't have 2 payable runs a month. We're very lucky that we do. And we can also do out of cycle payments as well. But with the reduced number of tickets, we are now seeing a greater impact of the payable tickets in this list. Okay, so I'm happy for the board to ask any questions around that. Okay, Shelby.
All right, thank you. And go to the first slide. I think Andrew, if you wanted to give a note about this.
Yeah. So, sorry, there was a comment. Okay, I'll just continue.
I think somebody wasn't muted. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so our GuideStar and Charity Navigator, we will wait until we get our audit back, and then we'll update both GuideStar and Charity Navigator with the results of our audit, obviously taking into account any corrective actions that we need to take. That will actually keep us in good alignment with these folks and probably get us to platinum for GuideStar and 100% for Charity Navigator. We're already doing pretty well. And so I'm reasonably happy with where we're at, but an external audit is the proof of the pudding. Shelby?
All right, yeah, good to go to the next slide. So we'll start with monthly revenue. Revenue for February was $662,000. This brought us up to the $718,487 year to date. And so against our draft budget, we were expecting about $806,000 in revenue. So we're trending roughly $88,000 below budget. If you go to the next slide, year-to-date revenue, this just is a repeat of what I was saying, where we are year-to-date. Same thing, okay. And actually, I'd like to go into a little bit of the detail around the revenue. So just for a breakdown of those numbers, corporate membership was at $54,000 actuals. That's 21,000 under the draft budget of 75,000. Individual membership at $50,679 was $679 over budget of 50,000. Project and technology were $22,000 ahead of budget. That's because no income was projected. So this month we received 15,000 for CRS, 1.1 thousand for API security project, and $500 for the mobile security project. Donations and grants were about 5.8 thousand, which is 12,000 under the budget of 18,000. The largest donations this period were 2,000 for the London chapter, and then we got 2,400 for the Orange County chapter. And then lastly, the biggest piece, event income, we got approximately 585,000, which was 77,000 under the budget of $663,000. So registrations came in at 292,833, and sponsorships and trainings came in at 292 as well. So that's the breakdown for revenue. If there's no questions, we can go into expenses. Total expenses for February were $359,000, bringing us to the year-to-date total of $13,958. So we are under that draft budget by about $211,000. So we've had budgeted for $725,000 in spend. You can jump to the next slide.
Before we do, Shelby, where is that 200,000 not being spent? Do you have
The biggest piece was Dublin, and so I can get into that.
okay.
So events were under budget by $240,000 for that month.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now that's good to know, because not spending on events and still having the event is good. Not spending on projects would be bad. Avi, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, Shelby, is that just because the expenses were delayed and haven't been reported yet, or is that expenses that are not happening?
So Lauren and I did a walkthrough of the expenses, and she let me know there are a couple flights that are missing, but other than that, this looks to be the and captures most of the spend for Dublin. So we might have a couple thousand trickle in March, but otherwise very good profit on Dublin.
You might have, Shelby, just an FYI, some expenses from the credit card too.
Oh, perfect, Sean. Thank you for noting that. Yeah,
Okay.
and the credit card balance you said was around 30,000.
32, but that's not all Dublin. A lot of it was Snowfrock, but there are some. I could get you that today to tell you which ones.
Okay, yeah,
I will do.
that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, just to break down that year-to-date spend a little more, project spend was 22,000 over budget, and that's because we didn't budget for the CRS development developer summit. Events, as I mentioned, were under budget by 240,000. They came in, we had 130,000 for the conference center, 35,000 for training, 25,000 for marketing, and right now at flights, we have about 11,000 recorded, but that's going to go up a little bit. All right, so that brings us to net income. Monthly net income year to date actually is 204,529. So we had drafted to have net income of $81,000. So we're larger over the budget by about $123,000. And most of that is due to underspending, as we noted earlier. Okay, we can go to the next slide.
We're just gonna pass the year today.
Yep, that's everything I have for year to date. Perfect.
Okay.
Accounts receivable, the balance is $192,000. This is 6% of total assets, and 21% of that is over 90 days past due. cash assets, we're looking at cash of 2.8 million, which is $124,000 more than last month, and about 1.38 million more than February of last year, which is a 95% increase year over year. Perfect. And then for operating reserves, so if we segregate out the AP balance and the project balance, we have approximately we have approximately 2.6 million. That's 15,000 more than January. And so that's going to put us at 13.8 months of reserve for operating expenses, and then 10.4 months of reserve for all monthly expenses. All right, that's all for me at this moment. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't think so. I don't see
Okay.
any hands. Andrew, I guess you'll take membership and chapters.
Yes. Next slide, please. So in March of last year, March of 2021, we held a 2-year membership drive, and the majority of those did not renew. However, if they did renew, they became 1-year members. So we've had a healthy growth in both 1-year and lifetime memberships, but a drop of 173 2-year memberships. So we need to do a membership drive for 2-year memberships. This actually is the first moving backwards, if you like, in our membership numbers for over 3 years. So we've been doing very, very well with membership, but we continue to need to focus on the occasional membership drive. Okay, next slide. Oh, Avi.
Do we have any information or input on why they did not renew? Usually the throwaway memberships are the 1 year. If they do 2 years, it's usually already investing more.
I'm not sure. We could actually go back and ask them. At the end of the day, basically, we don't have any sorry to see you go surveys. We have sorry to see you go emails, but unfortunately we don't then follow up with any feedback. Might be worthwhile doing that.
What percentage, Andrew? I mean, maybe worth getting the details on it, but what percentage did convert to a single year? Because I can imagine that people would buy a 2-year membership because it was good value. When it comes to renewal, there's no good value option for 2 years. They're going to just renew for another year instead.
Mm-hmm. So there's about 11 more 1 years than we normally have in a normal month. So I would suggest possibly about 1/5, 1/6.
So we're still missing 160 members.
Correct.
Didn't do that. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Next slide. We've had a number of new chapters, mostly student chapters in India. This is obviously an area of growth, and we should try to support them. I would encourage the education committee to come up with something for student chapters. We're starting to get a certain number of them that they're not quite like city chapters. And so I would encourage the education committee to try to get involved. Next slide. We've had healthy RSVPs and increased memberships to Meetup. So we are consistently seeing healthy numbers of meetings. I think our community is healthy. We will continue to encourage people to host meetings. With the change to moving the chapters and membership to Dawn, I've asked Dawn to really concentrate on helping inactive chapters to become active rather than focus on closing them down. I really do think that there's got to be some hand-holding for example, getting people to appoint a second leader, to here is some speaker resources, those sorts of things before we go down the pathway of shutting down an inactive chapter. But that said, inactive, yeah, so Dawn's saying that she's reactivating 2 chapters this week. Meetup does cost us per chapter, and so where it's unavoidable, we will be shutting down the meetups at the very least, but we will still try to encourage chapters to get going again. It's not forever. It is literally until someone can take up the reins again. Okay, next.
And we're going to make it easy for the new people to restart chapters, because that's proven to be quite difficult.
It should be as simple as logging a ticket. And tickets generally get processed for memberships and chapters within a couple of days. So it's not exactly the most onerous of requirements.
Yeah, so the paperwork side of things is possibly easy, but the complication is there's a reason that chapter became inactive. And having the same requirements on a new chapter leader as they were on the old chapters makes it complicated. But I think maybe this is a more thing for the chapters committee to help out with. And perhaps when we reactivate a chapter, make sure that we point the new chapter leader at those chapters, the chapter committee, and against the chapter committee's suggested guidelines. Because mainly it's going to be like they can't get speakers, and there's a list of speakers that are prepared to talk.
Yes.
Or they can't get, whatever it might be.
Yep. Just noting that down. Okay. Okay, so Harold, do you want to take this section?
I can. Bear with me because I'm a little bit under the weather today, but all right, project status always available where it's always available at. We had 278 current projects with 8 new within the last 60 days. We've updated the projects page. It now includes the project pitches for the flagship projects. If you've gone there, you'll have seen this. The project committee is actually providing a contributing MD file that we'll use with all default projects and try to get them on all the current projects where we can. There is now a draft project handbook under the project committee. It is not quote unquote published for general review, but it is there. If you want me to, I can provide the URL to it.
Please do, Harold, because the last one I've seen was like 2014.
Yes. With regard to DC, we will be having a project showcase, and we have 10 participating projects so far.
Is that a special track for projects, or is it's a?
Yes, the showcase is a special track wherein the projects will be able to talk about their project, try to get contributors, that sort of thing. They've got about 30 minutes each to speak. But we do have the project showcase. Normally we do it for a day. I think we're going to have it over both days in DC. So there's still plenty of room. Next slide. Oh, whoops, I forgot to mention the project committee is getting that the wish list together. I don't know if there's anybody here today. Don't see them.
They did provide me with a link to a number of the project's links. I have included in the minutes a little bit later on.
Yeah, they were going to put together a summary of that too. So, okay, next slide.
Sorry, Harold. A quick question. Are they focusing just on the flagship projects or also the others?
It will be whoever responded. So there will be some that aren't just flagships.
All right. The only reason I ask is because in Slack there was a bit of panic on some of the flagships.
Yep.
Thanks.
The results of the project audit so far, we have the flagships are done. We did not find anything with regard to license or vendor violations. All of them are active. The incubators, I have 66. I think we're actually over 100 now done. And all of that is still yet to be determined. Next slide.
There, on things like license violations, there are ways to make that easy, right? There are pipeline tools you can add to GitHub to verify the licenses are okay. I'm actually playing around with one of them.
I would
Chat
like,
about it afterwards.
if you would like to throw that to me, that would be awesome. Yes.
Oh.
This is the current status of the grants. You can see which ones are approved and the ones that are currently open. I will probably drop off the complete ones in the next meeting. Next slide. I think that's probably it. Yep.
Cool. And Kelly, could you, or Lauren, could you run through events, please? And we've got a pretty full meeting, so just maybe the highlights.
Okay. Kelly, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Oh, you could do it. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm
Great.
If you need something.
All right. So to save on time, Global AppSec Dublin, we are still wrapping up all the receipts that are coming in. I think Shelby and I are expecting between 250 to 300,000 in profit. Global AppSec DC, the registration, sponsorship, everything is open. San Francisco, we're on target. And then as you can see, we have all the other listings here for future years as well. Next slide, please. AppSec days, Cali, nothing has changed from our last board call. With Snowfrog, that event is completed. I know they had an issue with registration, so we're expecting their total to be a little bit higher than what we saw come through JIRA, their budgeted numbers. Basque is happening right now. AppSec Israel, Avi. I know sponsorships are still available. I'm putting together a little events newsletter, which will go out and for that, and then German days as well. Global AppSec Singapore, we're just making final changes on the agreement. But those days are looking like it will be October 4th through 5th, 1-day training, 1-day conference. And once that contract is officially signed, the website will go up and we'll start promoting that a little bit more. AppSec Days Pacific Northwest, they are more or less on track. We're helping them with a few promotions just to help them with their registration numbers. But next slide. Global AppSec Dublin, I think that we've briefly touched on this. The training numbers and the number of attendees came in a lot higher than we thought that it was going to. And thankfully, we were able to keep a lot of our AV in check, which helped us not exceed the budget. And Cooper, of course, was a big help. So once this is officially closed, we are estimating a pretty significant profit from Dublin. And if I can just touch really quick on EU, we do have a call for cities out for 2024, and it doesn't seem as though we're really getting any submissions. So if you guys know any chapter leaders, if you could just give them a little bit of a push, that would be great.
Okay.
Next slide. Global AppSec DC, everything's on track. Kelly's doing great with her sponsorships. We've already met with AV. We've got a couple of unique branding opportunities available at this hotel as well. Early bird registration is still open. Our call for papers is still open. Martin's working with reviewers now to select training. And we also have the booking link open for guest room reservations. Next slide. AppSec Days Singapore, again, just waiting on that contract. We should have it back, I imagine, probably by the time I log in tomorrow. And then I'll get that over to Andrew to sign, and it will probably be pushed and promoted starting next week. Next slide. Snowfrock, we just touched on that one. I'll have updated numbers in April to share with you. It's going to vary a little bit from what we saw come through JIRA just because they had a little issue, but it shouldn't be too much. Next slide. Basque happening right now, so I will have more updates for you guys next week or next month for the board report. Next slide. AppSec Israel, to my knowledge, Avi, unless I am missing something, everything is going smoothly for this conference.
We are a bit behind on sponsors, but we're catching up.
Yeah, I saw one come through today that Kelly was going to get out, but next slide. German OWASP Days is going great. Every day I see registrations coming in from Eventbrite. And as far as I know with this one, everything is going great as well. Next slide. AppSec Days, Pacific Northwest, they feel they're a little bit lower on their registration numbers than what they want. So we're helping to do a push on social media, hopefully to bring in some more attendees for their conference. And as usual, just hoping to break even on everything. Next slide. LastCon, the dates are selected. They're hoping to loop it in a little bit with our Global AppSec in DC. So if people are flying in from other countries, they can make use of being in the United States and go and see everyone. Next slide.
That appears to be the last slide in the deck.
And that is it. That's it for the larger meetings for events.
Did you want to just mention the career fairs?
Yes, we will have a career fair late September, which is going to accommodate the US and UK time zones. And then we've also selected dates in mid-October that is going to accommodate the Singapore time zones as well. We just got our graphics back from Hugo. So you'll start seeing a lot of mentions on that. So if you know of anybody interested, let me know.
And Avi, with the sponsor thing, just shoot some social media stuff to us and we'll get it up on Twitter and on LinkedIn for you.
Great idea, thanks.
And that's it.
Cool. Thank you very much, Andrew and staff. That brings us to the new business items. The first item on the new business is projects discussion. This follows the well, we want to talk about where we are with the strategic plan, the response to the open letter, and we wanted to look at what the results of the project audit were. So back in Dublin, we asked the projects committee to reach out to the projects to find out what things, there were some vague descriptions in the open letter, but what things specifically are the projects interested in? Unfortunately, that information came like today. And in many cases, the projects themselves were actually only asked for information today or possibly yesterday. But there is a link here which will take you to this document, which has then got linked plans or linked documents for a number of the projects. Now, the board hasn't had a chance to have a look at any of this. So I'd like to give you guys the opportunity to do so. It literally just came in. But possibly we should take this as the first thing we discuss in the next strategic meeting, because we have a lot of work to do in order to get a plan together to complete the plan that we have in mind for all aspects of OWASP, but specifically for the projects. There's somebody who'd like to talk a little bit more about this, or? Avi?
I seem to be filling all the silences here. So I haven't seen obviously all that list, but I have seen some of them. And I would say that a lot of the needs, I don't think need to necessarily wait for the strategic plan. A lot of the needs are just, I need a few hours of a graphics designer, I need a translator, I need some services. These are just general needs that are legitimate to be filled based on our existing budget. And I don't think we need to postpone indefinitely until we finish the strategic plan. I'd like to see how we can actually get some of that up and running. And I'd even say a whole big bunch of that is operational even.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't want to pick out things piecemeal and then lose sight of the big picture of the ask, right? Like if we offer translation services to project A and then ignore project A because we did a thing for them, they still have more questions, they still have more that they need from us.
Sure, and I think we need to have a cohesive document from the projects committee, not a bunch of different documents, but like one long list of what are the needs, right? And I think we can break out a lot of those pieces and give them that short-term solution for their immediate pain, even if we haven't solved the longer, big, I need to hire a developer to a 5-person developer team, right? I mean, that's the longer strategic. And I'd like to see how we can solve some of the shorter, immediate term things without waiting for the strategic plan, but we do need a cohesive list of how to operationalize this with the projects committee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But that's kind of what I was proposing we do in the next strategic meeting is to having looked at all of those documents, which have examples, figure out what things are common. The essentially what we asked the committee to do in the first place.
So what I'm saying is not even wait until the strategic meeting for the smaller operational needs. Now,
Do you want to do that now?
I don't think even we need to do that now. I don't think we need to go through this list. I mean, we don't have a single list. That is the bigger issue, right? If we can get the project committee to compile this into a list, right? For example, instead of going through all the different projects, we'll have, all right, we need graphics designer. We have 7 projects needing this graphics designer for a total of 50 hours or whatever that is. That is something that we can approach and deal with. Again, operationally, I don't think we even need to be involved in this. It's definitely within Andrew's remit to solve this. I think it's just something that we need to take into account and make sure that our budget covers that, obviously.
Well, it probably won't be covered by the BAU budget, which is what the next item on, well, 2 items down is about.
Right, and that I think is the bigger issue. But again, we're not talking about multiple millions of dollars, right? We're talking about, from what I've seen, a total of much smaller needs. Okay, 50 hours of graphics is not going to be a substantial issue on the budget when we get there, hypothetically, right?
I mean, it does depend on which one of the projects you look at, right?
Yes.
And I don't want to lose sight of the big picture. We do need to do this. You and I have a working session tomorrow, which we can work through this and possibly even offer that to the board as a way to make this easier.
Good.
I don't want to postpone this, or I don't want to push it out for time, but I don't think we have time now. I don't think we have had enough opportunity for the group to look at the rest of these documents in this session.
What I'm proposing here is, once we get a single list from the project committee, and I think we need to push back on that and try and get a cohesive document that we can actually break this out and compare and collate and correlate between the different needs. I would actually ask Andrew to take a look and see what are the things that can be done operationally within the existing budget. And it's going look, it's going to be a small piece of that, but we're going to start putting out some of these things right now. I mean, there's no reason to wait for the $4 million strategic plan when right now I just need, give me 4 hours of a graphics designer. There's no reason to postpone that, is what I'm saying. Is that fair?
Fair enough. So you want us to push back to the project committee to assemble this as a single cohesive list?
Yes, it's a single cohesive list. And then, Andrew, does that make sense to you to see what you can operationalize from that based on the budget?
Yeah, I mean, once the draft budget's approved, I know the parameters of what I can spend per month on project stuff. And, if it's not an unreasonable request, we've generally been approving them anyway.
Right. I'm just saying, have this, we can set this up front in some way.
Yeah.
Graphic designer, and I'm just picking on that. graphics
Mhm.
design, something that we're going to need all the time.
And generally, those sorts of things have been going through. That's not been a problem. Okay, got one very bitey cat here. Sit down.
Do we have someone from the project committee here? Having a look at the list of people.
Excuse me, Grant, just one question. Did you
Yeah.
decide, are you gonna take, or you're gonna send it to Andrew, the project part?
So there's two pieces. The first part is that the projects committee needs to collate the list of all the different projects we've got. So we've got a single list that we're working from, and we'll
Okay,
keep adding to that list as more things come in. And then Andrew's going to look at that single list to see how much of that can be operationalized
Okay.
immediately rather than waiting for a strategic plan.
okay, that's what I want to make sure I have it right. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see anyone from the project committee.
No, okay. I'll pick it up with the committee. I'll borrow an email to them after this meeting and ask them to take a look at it.
Yep.
Okay, outreach charter discussion is the next item of business. So the background is that the outreach committee has a draft charter. The resulting charter of the merging of the outreach and the I want to say we have, but it isn't. We have the diversity and inclusion committee. The board has some concerns and wishes to improve the charter for an April vote. So we are now end of March. The idea, and I see Spiros has joined, the idea is that we'd like to work with you, Spiros, to ensure that the charter is in a state that we're happy for it to be in, for what needs to happen, also we can vote on it at the end, at next month's official board meeting.
Sounds good to me.
Bill, I know that you had some comments on the charter. I think you actually updated the document with them.
Yeah, I just made comments and they weren't requirements. They don't have to change them. They were just suggestions on things that, and I think they accepted a lot of them.
Okay, but there were bigger concerns around the focus of the committee, right?
I'm struggling to remember. I did it like 2 months ago.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry. There's been it feels like 2 years ago with the amount of things that's happened in between.
Yeah. I mean, there was I think there were the big concerns. I don't think there was any huge concerns. I mean, there were some things in there that felt like they were duplicates. And so I know Matt also went through it and we deduped a bunch. And then and then I think we maybe raised a couple of things, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at it since then, so I don't know what the final state of it is. But if it's coming up for a vote, if we can just get the link out again, and I'll take a look again. I don't remember thinking, oh, this is a huge problem. I remember thinking, wow, this is in pretty good shape, and here are my comments on just, some of the things just seemed like they were duplicates.
Okay. It might have been Matt that then had a couple more comments on that. So what I'll do is make sure that I get Dawn the link to it, so it's included in the minutes for this meeting. And then if we can take a look at it in the course of the next week or so, giving Spiros plenty of time to do whatever needs to be done, so that we're ready for the next meeting. You happy with that, Spiros?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I have accepted a bunch of comments already. Thank you, board. Thank you, Bill, in particular, for these very helpful comments. Indeed, they make everything decidedly better. So yeah, I'll action everything left on the document and everything added during the next week, and I'll be back here with Andra in a month for a vote.
Perfect. Any other questions from the board for the outreach committee?
I just have a statement to make. really Zoe and the other people who are officers of the committee should be handling this. So I will get with Zoe and them. Spiro said, you said in a meeting you stepped down as an officer of this committee.
Actually, I want to point out that Zoe's term has expired according to the policy. So Zoe can't be the officer of the committee either at this point.
Now, we have not, because it isn't expired, she's the officer, and then we're gonna add some other people. So can I just touch base with them so we have the right people handling this? That's okay?
Yeah, please do, Dawn, but also just verify with Matt what the actual status is of the committee's
Right.
board, because I think there are some concerns about duration of terms as well. So it might just be that they need to do a vote at the next meeting to ensure that the
Yeah, they already discussed
the leadership
that.
of the leadership.
Yeah, they
Okay.
already discussed that.
Perhaps just reach out to Matt to make sure things are properly
Okay.
in order. Anything else? Okay, then, motion to approve the 2023 budget. Bill, can I hand that one to you?
Sure. The budget is, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yep.
Sorry, I see Glenn is actually the sponsor of it, but Glenn, are you still driving?
Yeah, I'm still in the car.
Okay, Bill, if you're comfortable leading the discussion, happy to do that. And Glenn, if we need you, we'll ask you to chime in.
Yeah, so we're sort of at a crossroads, right? Like we have some strategic discussions still to do that will impact our budget. But on the other hand, we have an organization to run. Specifically, Andrew has an organization to run and would love to have a budget in which he can work from. So he knows what he can and can't spend. Right now, he's just sort of guessing. So this is the budget that is our normal budget. So this is what we normally would do for the year. The thought here is that we would approve this budget so Andrew knows what he's supposed to be spending money on. We'll continue to have our strategic discussions about projects and other things. And then out of those discussions, once we've made decisions, if they impact the budget in any way, we can then approve a new budget. And we may have to do it anyways because our income and our expenses are obviously, as you saw earlier in the meeting, are not coming in at what we estimated. So anyways, this is just to get us going as an organization so that Andrew knows what he's supposed to spend money on. And like I said, it's just basically par for the course from last year. And then once we have our strategic discussions, we figure out the direction we're going to go there, we can revise it, and then we can vote on this again later in the year. Anyways, so that's hopefully everyone had a chance to look at it. There's no surprises in there. It's basically what we've always done. So anyway, so that's why we're voting on it now, why it's come up. And I don't know if there's any questions.
Thanks, Bill. Any questions from the board on that? Okay. Are we happy to vote on the budget itself?
I am.
Seeing some nods, I'm not hearing any dissent. So that being the case, resolved, the 2023 budget is approved. And I will do Celebrity Squares again. Bill,
Yes.
Avi,
Yes.
Vandana,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
and it's a yes from me too.
Thank you.
Then discussion on process to replace director vacancies. As all of you are aware, or at least definitely all of the board are aware, and all of the staff are aware, we do have a vacancy on the board. There are a number of ways in which a vacancy to the board can be filled. I've listed 4 of them here, literally what every board has done previously, which is to select someone from previous elections runner-up. But we could also do something different. We could also go a more strategic route. We could select someone who has a particular advisory capability that we need, that we feel as a board that we need to bring on board. Or somebody to specifically champion the projects. I see a number of interested project leaders on this call who I'm sure would be quite happy to see that happening. Or it might be somebody who brings fresh perspectives, who comes from a different angle, a different viewpoint on where the foundation is today and on what the foundation needs.
Or we could dig up some of our old board members that have already retired.
We could possibly, drag someone back in, kicking and screaming by their heels, especially as they've happened to serve far too many terms already, and we're very grateful to be able to slip out. I'm not going to mention any names or anything, but I'm sure Glenn would be happy to have a German to poke back on the board. But in seriousness, there are a number of ways that we can go about filling this role. And I do want us to think about it, because at the end of this meeting, we're going to be going into executive session. Part of that executive session is to discuss some of the staffing changes, but I think we should also throw around some ideas around who could potentially be asked to fulfill Mark's year and a half, or year and a bit. If there are any other options that I haven't listed here that you think might be valid ones, feel free to chime in. Obviously, I'd hold off with names until we get into executive session.
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out, Dawn's reminded me that not every person has been appointed from prior runner-up, but it is the convention generally. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Good to know. Oh, no, I think that you unmuted to say something.
Yeah, I unmuted to say that there are multiple options, as you said. Either we can ask Louis, we can ask people who are who actually are good enough to be part of the board, and especially who are actually having the capability of advisory and these things. Probably we need to consult with the staff as well, so that they're actually they can be part of the board as per the membership and other details. And the other option, I think one person mentioned that if nothing goes right, or if everything is fine, any situation, if we don't need the 7th board member. So the 3 situations. Probably what we can do is we can get on an executive session specifically for this one to talk about. I think this is a discussion which needs a lot of thought in from every one of us, because this is a big decision.
Because there is indeed an option I haven't even considered. We could choose to not fill Mark's seat. The board is required to have between 5 and 7 members. It doesn't have to have 7.
Right.
Okay. If there's anyone else who wants to talk about things that can be discussed in public session, you have your hand up.
Yes, the new bylaws, which have not yet been approved and put in place, does actually specify different rules than we had in the past for replacing a vacancy caused by death, resignation, or removal of a director. Specifically, it may be filled by the member that appointed or nominated and elected such director.
I.e. the general membership.
As in, we could take it back to a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That was always an option, though.
I thought it was a specific member that nominated the director that got elected. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's a typo. The membership. I don't know. Fine. Not discussing bylaw stuff. All right.
That also sort of indicates the selecting from the runners up would be the easiest to, meet that particular requirement of the new bylaws.
Okay, well, let's hold that conversation for the executive session. The next item on the agenda is finding time for the next strategy meeting. This is important. Our agendas are all very full. We're all volunteers, and I understand that finding time is difficult. And I've asked many hours of you this year so far already. And I do appreciate that you guys have been able to put that time in. But we do need to find some time to actually slam out the majority of what needs to be done still around the strategic plan. So Avi, can I ask you to put together a doodle to get a couple of 2-hour slots in? We have got some holidays coming up, which I know make things more complicated. But let's put as many slots in as we possibly can. I want to be able to present back to our members, to the project leaders, what we've done already. But I think that we probably need to finalize some more parts of what we've done already before it's worth talking to them about it. To that end, I'd also like to at least publish the strategic objectives that we had listed out, so they know that projects is key and critical to what it is we're planning for strategy. If the board is happy with me doing that, I would very much like to do that. I mean, it's none of it's hidden stuff, right? It's what I'm referring to here is essentially these components, perhaps with some of the details that follow below this that we have already finalized, or that we've already talked about to a degree that we're confident that it's worth talking or presenting. But I think that it is important that the members know that we have been working on it, that it hasn't been ignored. So to that end, I'll probably be putting together a blog post with at least this level, but preferably perhaps even down to the levels that we have in here. If everyone is comfortable with me doing that. I'm not going to ask for a vote because I don't think that it really requires a vote.
Yes, Grant.
Thanks, Arnold. Bill, so you got yourself unmuted. Was that intentional?
Nope.
Harvey,
you unmuted yourself. I know that must be intentional.
It's just my default state. I'm just wondering if you publish this as just a high level thinking, as opposed to translating this into actual things that we're going to be doing, specific, actionable decisions, or is that something that you could also include there?
Look, ideally, I'd like to present the whole thing, right? This is the strategy. These are the objectives we have. This is how we're going to achieve those objectives. These are the key components we think we need to achieve those objectives, all the way down to the point where Andrew can actually start writing okay, we need to hire a person X to do these things. We need to go and find these type of partners to be able to provide these services. Maybe not all the way to the degree that it's operationalized, that Andrew has already got an operational plan around it, but at least that our high level strategy is presented. But we're not there yet, right? We're nowhere near there, for these bottom two at least. And I don't think with the project either. I mean, ideally, this level, the level down from here, is something I'd like to be able to present back to, at least to the writers and the signatories, the open letter.
Okay, listen, it's a blog post, right? It doesn't need to be a formal solution. It doesn't need to be a specific answer to anything. I think it makes sense to be working on this transparently. I mean, have this as a black post, as the first in a series of black posts, right? I mean, it's the first part of it. This is what we're working on so far.
Exactly.
This is our thinking, and we're going to continue working on the translate. Yeah, I mean, I think that's brilliant. I think it's a ton of sense.
Glenn, I know I'm painfully aware that you're stuck in traffic, but do you have any comments on that? Suggestions?
Oh, no objection.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you're okay with that too?
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, then after I send the email to the projects committee, I'll spend a bit of time this evening working on that as well. And Glenn, sorry, Ali, you're taking away the action item for the doodle so we can get some time in the calendar, right? Perfect. Then we're going to disappear into executive session at some point. I guess the first question I have to ask before we do that, is there any other business? Any comments, announcements, or any other business? Nothing from the board?
The only thing I'd mention is that the date of the next board meeting is slightly different just because of the vote that was taken in January.
Perfect. Well spotted, Andrew. So the next board meeting is the 25th of April. Just be aware of that.
Do we want
there any
in-person grant about our in-person meeting? Since we haven't actually gotten anywhere on the emails about that.
Yes, possibly. Vandana, you've got your hand raised.
Grant, just so you know, on this day, we would be in US only for RSA. So we would be taking the meeting from RSA.
Yeah. But we'll be sat right next to Andrew.
Yes, that's right. We'll all be sitting
And
together.
Andrew will have a nice little in-person speaker that we used in Dublin. Did you get that back, by the way, Andrew?
I believe Kelly's got it. I'll get it back.
I still have it.
Okay, cool. As long as someone has it, because I didn't take it home with me.
Sorry, this is a mistake. This is a typo. That was the original date and was actually moved to the 18th the week before because of RSA and other things.
Ah. Okay.
You're a safe.
We explicitly moved it to not be on RSA.
Okay,
And my own holiday.
sorry. I'll fix this.
Yeah, and the prep for the next one as well still says 25th.
Yeah, I'll fix it.
Are you sure we had that vote, Andrew?
Yes, we did.
Feels
So
like we
what Andrew meant
tipped
to say
into
is, please note that the next meeting is not on the 25th, is what he meant to
It's-
say.
Yes, it's on the 18th. You're absolutely right. It's actually already in the calendar as to that, but the board prep call hasn't been moved back. I'll move that one back.
One other comment, Andrew. The links to join the meetings. I don't believe that this link here actually meets up to the meeting we're in. Just verify that the links have been updated for the future meetings, because I suspect I had a number of individuals not being able to join the call.
I verified it this morning. It's the right one.
Okay.
But if you've got an out-of-date one, say on an events calendar somewhere, I'll need to chase that one down.
Okay. I'll find out where it came from, because it came to me via.
Yeah, it's got to be in someone's calendar somewhere.
Okay, then if there's no other business from the board, is there any other business from our membership in attendance? Rick, I see you've joined us. So just wave and say hello. Okay.
Maybe we should volunteer Rick about the board seat. I'm joking.
Hey, listen, there's no reason his name can't come up in the executive session just now, Andrew.
That's a matter for the board.
Well, look, Rick managed to find the unmute button.
Yes, I did find the unmute button. So I have no idea how serious you were, but between the 3 projects I work on and helping with the community stuff, I'm unconvinced that I have further cycles to put into the board. But anyway.
That's how we know you're a good fit.
Yeah, right. I think my family might have a different opinion, but yeah. Anyway. I'm not going to say no off the bat, but I don't think it's likely a good fit. Anyway.
I do appreciate your openness to the idea, Rick. I do.
All right.
Okay, then if there's no further business, I'd like to close the public board meeting. Do I have a second, Andra?
I was just unmuting
Happy
to
to
say hi, Maria.
Sorry,
So
who
it
was
is
the
moved
second?
and seconded.
Who seconded? I couldn't tell who was talking.
I did it.
Vanda
I did it.
Thank you.
And those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us. I will now try and find the stop share and then the stop recording.